This episode of the ChatGTM podcast is brought to you by Budget Branders, your source for custom branded cups and bags. So what makes them unique? Well, they source using a hybrid supply model, they import to keep prices low, and they have domestic backup to fill in the gaps. Learn more at budgetbranders.com or connect with Budget Branders on LinkedIn. And now it's time for the show. Hey, everybody, good afternoon, and welcome back to the ChatGTM podcast if you're a returning guest, and also welcome to the show if it's your first time tuning in. My name's Michael Beck. I'm your irascible host here at GTM. I'm joined with us as almost always, Mr. Chad Horn, business partner, co-conspirator, and the man with the best decorations in the background because they're made by his loving family. What's up, Chad? How you doing today?
Yo, Beck. Well, I'm doing well. I was just thinking we don't do enough of these on Friday, right? Because we have
what a way to take out a week.
Yeah. Right. It's just we get the fun of the weekend to look forward to. In your case, a lot of relaxation after those world records that you set. So I just think the vibe is pretty good today.
I like the vibe. I had 3 dolphins at the dock this morning, which is usually the omen that says it's going to be good. And so they come up the river going fishing, and they round up fish as they come up the river, and I get to go out there and squeal like a 3-year-old who saw them for the very first time. It never changes. So Chad, tell me just a quick thing. Who are we talking to today? What's this all about?
Well, we'll be having the honor of talking to Ryan Volberg, a gentleman I used to work for, which is awesome. And I remember the first time I met him and was blown away. And now I'm blown away by what he's built in this company we're going to be talking about. It's really cool and really unique.
And he is also a rhythmic master, I think, of the drums. I believe he is a instrumentalist of the highest order, and I've always ripped him about my love of Lemmy, and I keep randomly sending him memes, and he's probably like, why does this dude keep sending me memes about Lemmy? We talked about it once. But on that note, let's go ahead and get Ryan into the show here. I'm going to do a quick read-in so people know what the heck we're talking about. So today's guest is Ryan Volberg, and he has a habit of showing up early to the future. Long before cloud technology became the backbone of modern restaurants, Ryan founded VivoNet, the industry's first cloud-based POS platform. He spent 13 years scaling the company from a disruptive idea to a successful exit, helping change the way restaurants operate. But that was only the beginning. Later, he founded Instant Financial, tackling another challenge hidden in plain sight, giving hospitality employees access to wages they've already earned. The company helped redefine earned wage access and brought greater financial flexibility to frontline workers across the industry. I love the help he's put in there. And Ryan then joined PAR Technology, where he led the Restaurant Solutions Group as SVP and General Manager, helping drive a 4-fold increase in value while shaping technology used by some of the world's leading restaurant brands. Now, through Guestologie, he's taking on what may be hospitality's oldest challenge, truly knowing the guest. Using AI-powered guest recognition, Guestologie helps restaurants identify, understand, and personalize experiences at scale, turning anonymous transactions back into meaningful relationships. What's remarkable about Ryan's career isn't just the companies he's built, it's his ability to spot problems that everyone else accepts as normal and ask a simple question: what if there was a better way? Today, we'll talk about innovation, entrepreneurship, AI, the future of hospitality, and why the biggest opportunities often hide in the industry's oldest problems. Ryan Volberg, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys.
Hey, he's from the green room. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow, Michael Beck can read. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's good. That guy sounds pretty cool. I'd like to get to know him. Thank you for that.
If you blush a little bit, I did my job. So how are you there,
By the
Ryan?
way, I just need to correct a record. I love your Lenny memes. I love them. And those need to continue. That just needs to continue.
I might just edit that in. Lemmy approves. He might just show up in the post on this.
Do it.
But how are you doing today, Ryan? What's new?
Amazing. I'm doing my favorite thing in the world, which is sitting down with cool guys talking about, this new company we're building. And I just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to do that, be on your awesome podcast. So it's a great day today.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and take the first swing, Chad, and then we'll get to your question. And I always like to start with kind of like the founder's question, right? So, Ryan, what problem did you see that made you believe that guest recognition was still unsolved, despite all the loyalty programs and CRM and customer data platforms that are already on the market?
Well, I'd like to tell you a story. I call this our origin story. I like stories too. And so I'm going to this is our origin story, and I've told it a million times, but the more I tell it, I think the more I just recognize that the simplicity of some of these problems, the way that they show up masks the complexity of the issue. And so here's what the scenario is. My wife and I would go to a restaurant every Friday. It was our date night. And, more often than not, on a Friday afternoon, we would go down there. And I would say, without any question, we were in the top 1% of that restaurant's guests. No question. Um, and one time we went down and we checked in and we didn't have a reservation. We normally don't. It's a place that does usually just a wait list. And we
Mhm.
eventually got seated. And our server came over and she was perfectly lovely. And she's like, "Hi, my name's Joanne. I'm your server today. It's lovely to have you here. Is this your first time at Earl's?"
Mm.
And I paused. And on this particular occasion, and I didn't say it as pissy as I'm going to say it now because she was lovely, right? But
Right.
I was like, "No, this is my 50th time at this
Oh,
Earl's,"
that's a miss.
right? Versus maybe 200 times over my lifetime. It was an iconic chain, in Western Canada and increasingly in the US. And so that moment, I realized, something's really, really broken here. And I actually called up the COO, who's a friend of mine, and I said, "Craig, is this a problem?" And he goes, "Yeah, it really is. I mean, we've tried a lot of things, including really increasing the amount of labor we're spending at the front door so that our hosts can make better notes in the reservation system and can do this." And so what I came to understand is there was lots of information. If you wanted to dig into the reservation, you could see Ryan had many, many, many visits. You could see that I was tagged as a VIP. You could see that there were notes saying that I knew the executive team at the head office. There's all that information there. But staff are too busy, high turnover, demanding environment. And so we sort of default back to the base scripts, right? Which
Yep.
is there's a guest, we're going to seat him, and then we're going to make small talk. And I think what we don't understand as an industry is a lot of that base script or that small talk. "Hey, is it your first time here?
Right.
Why did we ask that question?" Well, rightfully, we're on the lookout for new guests. Makes
Sure.
sense. The problem is we don't understand the impact that has on a truly loyal guest.
Mm.
Because the message really was, we don't really know you and doesn't really matter. And I
Right.
kind of that's what I felt. And I was like, but I know that that's not what this chain is. I know this is actually a truly guest obsessed company that just simply lacked a system and a technology that could help enable guest recognition at scale. And so that was really the moment I decided that we were going to try to tackle this problem.
Love it. Chad?
So, Ryan, I want to share a stat we heard a couple times this week at the restaurant marketing workshop. And then I want to share a story I've heard a dozen times from John Taffer on social media over the years. The stat was this. It was that over 80% of guests, first time guests a restaurant get are not coming back. And overall the vibe was, don't worry, you're not going to change that. So focus on the ones you can, your returning guests. John Taffer's story that I want to pair with this was this. Hey, if you give that guest who just had a great dinner with you, right on the business card, $5 off the chicken, you got to try the chicken, come back. Personal touch, you gave them, that, and it's written down, handwriting, they're coming back. And then when they give that to the server's going to know, hey, this is this person's second time because that's what we do here. And they have a great dinner. And then the manager says, you got to try your dessert next time you're here. Business card, free dessert, free cheesecake next time they come in. And his point was that's how you market a restaurant. And so, but in that latter story, I'm thinking this reminds me of Ryan and what you guys do. So I'm curious, synthesizing those two, how do you think about this and frame this, the problem of marketing versus service and retention?
Well, I think our entire industry is over indexing on the new guest to the detriment of the loyal ones you already have. So,
Yep.
I think we all almost take it for granted this idea that it's better to take care of the customer you have than to go find a new one. I don't think anyone objects to that idea. I
Right.
think it makes perfect sense. But then the question is, well, how do we do that? What are the tools, the systems, and the technologies to do that? And so, what I would say is, like, John has some phenomenal content, and I'm not gonna say that those aren't genius ideas on ways of like identifying that first time guest and how do I convert them into a loyal. That makes perfect sense to me. But what I would say is, don't worry about that
Mhm.
until you've figured out how do I identify who my best customers are, right? And make sure I retain them. So the National Restaurant Association published a stat, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, that said 36%, or I'm sorry, table service restaurants are churning or losing 36% of their guests every year.
Mm.
I mean, by any measure, 36% churn is
Wow.
alarming, right? Now, think about this. Tilster, second stat came out 2 weeks ago, said 45% of American diners report that they have changed their favorite restaurant in the last year,
Ooh.
Mm.
switched. 45%. So in other words, restaurant A was my favorite go-to place, but in the last 12 months, I have a new favorite go-to place. So I would look at it this way. I would probably have to work a lot harder to find all these new customers and go to the $5 discount and all these mechanics, red napkin, white napkin, all. What if I just kept a lot more of my existing happy customers? What would that look like? And that's what we decided to do, right? Is to say, why don't we give there's a lot of great systems and marketing and energy being put into finding a new guest. Why don't we put the same care and attention onto keeping these phenomenal, real loyal regulars that you have, which incidentally, and just a little tiny diversion here, everyone loves software companies because of recurring revenue. They're valued very highly, right? SaaS companies get these high valuations because of recurring revenue. Restaurants have huge recurring revenue engines. It's called your repeat guests. But we lack a way to measure them. We lack a way to identify them when they walk in the door. And we really lack tools to ensure that they get the sort of personalized experience that they need in order to keep them coming back. So that's
Mm.
what Guestology does, right? We're trying to not replace the new guest acquisition problem, but actually enhance the overall picture by solving the retention problem.
So Ryan, you named some stats there. Let's tie that back to some kind of economic impact, right? How much revenue do you think, or based on the data you've gathered, do restaurants lose because they don't really know their guests?
Well, if you extrapolate that out, it's about $188 billion a year. So right now, again, that's not 188 billion disappearing from the economy. It's being
Right.
swapped around, right? They leave me, they go to you. But
Yep.
I mean, also like they leave me, but they go to delivery, or they leave me and they're trying alternatives. And so the key stat is there's for every one of those $188 billion, there's a loser and a winner,
Hmm. Yeah.
right?
Well,
But the key is to retain it. You were a winner. You lured someone over, keep them.
yeah, keep them. Well, another stat that came out, Chad, keep me honest on this one because my number does float. But the data that came out during the NRA show was it 43% of restaurants didn't turn a profit last year?
Yeah.
40 something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, even if it's 30, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous that the main businesses aren't turning a profit. And these are places where they could keep that money and it would make all the difference, right?
Guys, I'm gonna I risk of being lit up in the comments or something like that.
I like lit up.
I'm gonna make generalizations, and I recognize like there's so many exceptions and there's so much excellence out there in our industry,
Right.
but I feel compelled to talk about the difference. Like the nomenclature matters here. Like
Yes.
we use words like loyalty when what we really mean is rewards.
Mm,
Okay. Right. So a reward system, right? You visit me, I'm going to give you points, discounts, all those types of marketing offers, 2 for 1, 50% off. Those are not necessarily loyalty systems. Those are reward systems that do what? They create frequency. I'm not sure. Well, I actually am sure. I'm sure they don't generally create loyalty.
mm.
And so, I think what happens is when we start to be a little more precise in the language, right? We start to understand this stat you just shared about, what was it, 46 you said? Sorry.
43.
43%. So when we're working really hard to create traffic, the primary mechanism we have is a discount, right? But you don't have to work too hard to maybe think back to like Groupon and the effect that has had on restaurants, right? Which is, you could certainly create traffic with a Groupon that was a 50 or 60% discount on your product, right?
Mhm.
You would create the traffic, but you didn't create loyalty, because we know that often those customers just went from one Groupon to the next, to the next, to the next. And the reality is that traffic you got wasn't profitable. So traffic alone is not creating a profitable restaurant. Although too
Yep.
often times we say, look, if we want to have a successful business, we just need more traffic. No, you need great traffic. And where does great traffic come from? It comes from your elite and VIP regulars.
Mhm.
Because what it turns out, and a guy named Gabe Zickerman did this work, and we can come back to this in a little bit. But Gabe Zickerman came up with the model of loyalty, and it was a four-letter acronym called SAPS, SAPS, and it stands for status, access, power, and stuff. And those are the four mechanisms that create loyalty to a brand. And what makes his model so special is that he observed that the thing that creates the most loyalty is status. That's how I make you feel. Right? That's being, that's the norm experience when you walk into Cheers.
Yep.
I'm dating myself now, but people know this, right? That's a sense of belonging to a place, to be seen. And this is really, guys, honestly, a deep, I think, human need is this communion, this gathering place, and you come to this gathering place and you're seen and you're known, and that's status within this tribe, and that is the highest driver of loyalty. But what Gabe observed was that it's also the cheapest, right? And so if you think about an example like this, where I walked up to a restaurant that I'm really a regular at, and it was like, oh, there's a Mr. Volberg, it's nice to see you, but there's almost an hour wait for a table, right? But Ryan is one of our most valuable guests. We're going to get you seated as soon as we can. Just stand by. We'll get you in. Okay. That's status. That is
Yep.
a tremendous sense of recognition of my value to that business. How much did it cost the restaurant?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Zero.
Takes a
Nothing.
second. Yeah.
Nothing. It's just right. And so what Gabe also observed, so status, access, power, we'll leave those two out for the minute. Stuff. What's stuff? Discounts, points, rewards, 50% off red wine night, 2-for-1 coupon, all of those transactional monetary rewards. And so what he observed is that those things actually create the least amount of loyalty to a brand. But it makes sense why, right? They're available to everybody. They're transactional. It actually devalues the product and the brand, right? And so what happens is the things we aspire to liking are often the most the Ferraris, the things that are expensive and aspirational, and getting into a restaurant that you can't get into. Everything that has that sense of exclusivity and it's expensive and luxurious and beautiful, all of that good feeling goes away when I give you the 2-for-1 coupon.
Mm.
And so stuff can create traffic. It does not create loyalty as well as the other things. And so this is the principles that we leaned into at Guestologie, which is what we need to be able to do is when a guest walks up to a restaurant, we've got to be able to answer a couple of questions. What is the value of this guest to me? And then the second thing is what should I do about it? How should I treat this person? And so we've created a system to do those things.
Beautiful.
So Ryan,
Chad?
thank you for. I was going to ask you, and you just did it, summarizing what Guestology does. But now, what fascinates me, because I see so many different categories in restaurant technology, where there's a dozen or more, 2 dozen, like in restaurant intelligence based on AI. There's a
Mm,
new company every week. So what
mm.
I'm curious from you, what is your perspective on why there aren't a dozen? Why there aren't even isn't another Guestology? Why isn't this a problem everybody's trying to solve since it has such a big financial impact?
I think as it's exquisitely hard to do. And I don't believe you could have done it properly prior to the advent of some generative AI and particularly machine learning. Um, I've had this idea for a long time. I've been keenly aware of this problem. And, there's another way this problem shows up, which is that relationships are owned at the employee level, not at the brand level. And so
Mm.
what this is the example is where you build this wicked relationship with the bartender at a place. Right. And that bartender, he knows or she knows you. And every once in a while, they comp you a little drink and it's your favorite watering hole. And you've just invested a couple of years of your life into being super comfortable here. And then that bartender's gone, and what happens is you start from scratch. You're at zero, right? All of a sudden you're a nobody to the person that comes in next. And so, this problem, I think is just exquisitely difficult to solve without the advent of some of the technologies that have become available recently. Um, the other thing I would say about this is, you said like there's so many of these like CDP platforms, marketing platforms, all these. There's a lot of solutions out there, and we don't take anything away from those. All of those activities are very, very important to running a successful business. But our belief is that loyalty doesn't happen on a dashboard. Loyalty isn't created in an email offer. And
Mm,
so, our belief is that loyalty is truly created by how I treat you when you are in my restaurant. And that treatment increasingly needs to be contextual. It needs to be personalized. I should not treat somebody who's here for the first time, who maybe needs to get the red napkin treatment, with somebody that's been here 50 times and represents my, top most elite customer lifetime value guest. And so Chad, I think that's my
Yeah.
stereotypical for me long answer is that I think it's been very difficult to attack this problem up until recently.
mm. So Ryan, and we talked a little bit about, the data side of things, but it's real that we have more data than ever,
Mm.
right? There's so much data coming into restaurants, yet many of the guests still do feel anonymous. How do you think we got to this place where it's more information and less recognition?
I like how you frame that. One of the ways I put it is we've never had more loyalty technology, yet
Hmm.
we've never had less loyalty.
Yeah.
And so, right, and that's to me is like one of these paradoxes that I love. Honestly, like these are the things I live for. I'm like, I want to find the paradox and try to ask that question. And so I think um I think what restaurants have done is we've become renters of our guest information. And so I want to paint a picture for you around a situation like Open Table, which is a phenomenal company and has really provides a great service, right? Like I go to a new city, and I can go onto Open Table and discover restaurants that I would like. And Open Table has
Yep.
been very good at marketing to me. But I think what's happened is our industry has outsourced the guest relationship a little bit, right? And so what's happened is you're at a situation now where the platforms, whether it's OpenTable or DoorDash or others, have much more information on Ryan Volberg than the restaurant does. And
Mm.
they're certainly seeing Ryan Volberg across all of the different restaurants I eat at versus just the snapshot of information, inside. And so I think restaurant industry in general over the last many years has actually become very, very interested in like who are our guests and what's their behavior and all of these things to help them operate better. But for some reason, and this is like a bit of a perplexing one for me, is every day millions of diners dine anonymously. Then I would say like one of the most data capture points is identifying the guest who dined in your restaurant. But
Mm.
every day it kind of looks like this instead. I'd like a table for two, please. Sure. Grab two menus, seat the guest.
Right.
Who is this?
No idea if
Now
they're
you
VIP or not.
no you have no idea. First
Yeah.
first visit, 20th visit, have no clue. That is happening right now as we sit here millions of times today. This will happen. Millions and millions. So think about it. What data point could you tell me that is more important than the record of a guest visit?
Yeah.
Mm, I don't know. Maybe some equals, but I
Yeah.
don't think there's much that's more important is like who specifically was my customer. Now,
Yeah.
we have all these technologies that'll be like, oh, don't worry about it. We captured their credit card information at the end. And so when that guest comes again and we see that same hashed credit card number, we know it was a second visit. I'm like, well, that's great. And you can get some good information
But it's
from
a
that.
look back, right?
It's a look back, it's historical, and
Yeah.
it's anonymous. We don't know who this
Yeah.
person is. We know nothing. We can't market to them. So I don't know. Do I have a perfect answer for what this is? I don't really. I just know that the consequences are becoming more severe than they were a long time ago. It didn't
Mm.
seem to matter before. It desperately matters now. Maybe it was the advent of the platforms. Maybe it's the advent of digital that has just made this a bigger issue. But yes, that is one thing I tell people that I meet with and tell them about Guestology. And I say, if we never meet again, that's okay. But please start capturing that
Yep.
valuable customer data because it's going to empower you. I think customers that have control over their first party data will be the ones that are able to be highly successful over the next 10, 15 years.
Can you do the world a favor when you're done with this project, move to medicals so I can stop filling in the forms when I walk in the door every single time?
Right? Right. Oh my God. That's a good example. I'm like, yes, this.
Chad?
Or just for fun in my head, I'm thinking, what would be like the worst possible kind of restaurant for Ryan? I'm thinking like a restaurant in Orlando that's just seeing tourists. They're only going to see these people once. But now I'm thinking, all right, so those guests are low propensity to ever become loyal. You probably have great data on the opposite of that, right? Guests that have a high propensity to become loyal, if only you would treat them as such. So talk about that and the data you might have.
This has been, I think, one of the most delightful parts of our system and the machine learning is, and it's a bit of a game internally. It's like, it's kind of like name that tune. If you remember, gosh, I'm dating myself again, right? But if like they could play, bum bum bum, and they're like, name that tune,
One
right?
note. I can do
And
it in one note.
one note, right? You know
Yeah.
that. So our version of name the tune is on how little data can we predict that a guest will become one of your top 10%?
Right.
So the answer right now is one visit. After one visit, because machine learning is so powerful, it does, and I'm going to simplify this a bit, but it's sort of like on that first visit, there's a whole bunch of characteristics. There's the time of the visit, there's what they ordered on the visit in terms of the actual transaction level detail, amount they spent, day that they showed up. There's actually a lot of data. And so what we do is we're looking at that transaction, at that visit, and we say, how closely does this correlate with the first visit of people who ultimately went on to become our highest value guests? And so if it looks very, very similar, you could say we would make a bet that if we invested in this relationship, we could rapidly turn this person into a regular. So it's a question of like, can I intelligently deploy resources? What's resources? It's the time of my management. Go over there and do an intentional manager visit. Or it's something along the lines of maybe we want to do a little manager card or a discount or a cheesecake or something like that, right? But I think where we or maybe have an advantage is unlike sort of the analog version, which is, we do the red napkin, white napkin, and we treat everybody who's new the same. We don't. What we do is we're able to see signals that tell us this guest, not that guest, has a high likelihood of returning. So let's actually invest our resources over here. So Chad, inside of all of this information that we have is really understanding guest behavior and finding signals that either tell us we're about to lose a high value guest, and so we need to do something about that, or we see potential, we see high opportunity, and we should do something about that. And that's really the core of how Guestologie works. Is when a guest walks in the door, we want to identify them, but we also want to understand where are they in their relationship to my brand. Are they gaining in frequency? We're starting to see a lot more of Ryan. Okay, we want to promote that behavior. That's good. Things are stable, right? That's good too. Or, and this is that 36% annual churn number, Ryan looks like he's getting bored. We're starting to see less of him. And so when we know two things, what's your value as a customer to my business and what's your relationship with us, then we can take intelligent action. And that's what our system does is it builds a playbook for that visit. So this is hyper personalization. Here's what we're going to do for Ryan. And then it actually prescribes or acts like a co-pilot and says, in this particular case, we're going to do these specific things. So it'll create a little bit of an orchestration that will guide the staff because staff are super, super busy, right? And they're going to do lots of different things. The way we look at it is you're going to do lots of things on your shift, but don't miss these. And then last thing I'll say about that is we want to make the invisible visible. So if you look at the composition of a restaurant, typically, and let's just say like a very successful casual dining restaurant, they may have up to 200 or 250 what we would call elite guests. 200 to 250, making up close to 10% of their revenue. These are the hyper loyals, right?
Yep.
Now, I don't know about you. I would struggle probably to be able to recognize 40 or 50 people on site. The best managers can do more than that. Maybe they could do double. But
Right.
what we found in practical speaking or in practical use was that no managers were able to identify all of the highest value guests,
Yeah.
even close.
Yeah.
But it gets worse. When you go to the next group down, which we call VIPs, elites are the highest segment in terms of customer lifetime value. And then we go down to VIPs. There are hundreds of them, and they just go unseen day in and day out. So they're coming. Maybe these are people coming once a month. They're coming once every 5, 6 weeks. Very, very regular. But what happens is they're invisible. And so eventually they just start to get bored. They're not getting much in the way of recognition or value out of their loyalty, and they go somewhere else. In our system, what's happening is we surface visibility to every single one, and they make sure that the management has the ability to recognize those people and make them feel seen. And when you do that, man, do they reward you with their repeat visits and loyalty. It's really very dramatic.
Well, what you're talking about is also very scalable, right? You're going to have a rock star at one or two restaurants. You're going to have it across the chain, even if you had the best systems or best people in place. Um, so thinking about the future state of this, we're running down the road of personalization and Guestology is out there firing away. What should a truly intelligent restaurant experience feel like for the guest 5 years out from now, or even you can see that far? Let's even say 2 years, because it is hard to look that far in the future. The fog of war is different.
Yeah, I think we're taking our cues a little bit from saying, what would it be like to take, I would say, like for lack of a better term, a Michelin style experience, right?
Mm,
And scale that down to casual dining in a way that's appropriate, right? And so, I think there's a couple aspects to it. First and foremost is just simply, and we do this today, right? Is the ability to recognize that guest for who they are to your business and see those opportunities, and to make every visit feel like it's built on the last one. That is, to me, the thing that's kind of bananas right now, is that it seems like many restaurants I walk into, it's like every time I walk in the door, it's
it's Groundhog
Groundhog
Day.
Day.
Ah,
And right? Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
yeah,
Um, and so, like, to me, these are the simplest things in the world, which is, and not in a creepy way. It's like, oh,
right,
hello, Ryan. Nice to see you after seeing you last Tuesday. And like, that's not
right.
what it is. But it's like, it's building. Each visit sort of builds on the previous one, and there's an investment that's being made by the guest that's being reciprocated by the brand, and it feels effortless, right? And I always put myself in the position of owning a 30 seat restaurant, tiny, and I'm the owner operator and
Yep.
I'm there. And it'd be like, well, what would I know? I would know all the guests that walk through. I would have sort of a relationship with them. I would understand that Ryan likes this and this other person likes
A
that. And
drink
I would have a
order.
real, yeah, I'd have a sense
Yeah,
of the thing. I'd have a
yeah.
sense of the people and my customers. And when someone new walked through, it'd be pretty easy for me to like, well, there's a new face, right? And so I think this is what we're trying to do with the technology. Is that's the first thing, is the on-premise experience is incredibly natural. And
Mm,
because I think it's unnatural to go into a restaurant that I've been 20 times and be treated like a newbie. Like, so to me,
yeah,
that's an unnatural situation. So people
yeah.
are like, oh, isn't technology going to make all this feel mechanical and weird? I'm like, are you crazy? It's fucking mechanical and weird right now, guys. Like, people, like, our service standards, our
Yeah,
scripts, right? When people
yeah.
walk in and they give you the script, hello, my name's Ryan. I'm the manager. How are you today? If there's anything you need, please let me know.
So you're
God,
turning
like,
people into robots that could be warm.
yeah. Whereas I think technology can actually turn people into empowered, uh, you, you know, empowered deliverers of hospitality. That's not going to get quoted, but the idea is that we want to be a co-pilot. We just want to help the service teams actually be able to do something that as humans we just can't do, because it's too much traffic, it's too many people, there's too high turnover. So there's a system that just helps me do that. So that's thing one. I think the second thing and I forget the actual stat, but I think it's somewhere in the range of 60% of guests say that it really matters to them in terms of a restaurant recognizing things like allergies and preferences.
Hmm.
And so this is where we now start to capture that information, and this is the medical form, right? And it's the ability to anticipate a guest's needs and understand what their unique needs are. And
Right.
so I think that's the second thing. And I think as we really look into the future, we're using generative AI and agents to create these concierge experiences.
Mm,
Because I think what's really, really convenient is I've got questions about the menu. I've got questions about availability on Mother's Day. I've got questions about a variety of different things. And I want to interact with that restaurant in a way that is, I think, really convenient to me. And we're seeing a lot of technologies these days where, for the phone call, we're using generative AI to take the
Right.
phone call, I think that's phenomenal stuff. But if it isn't connected to a canonical guest record,
Mm.
then what's happening is it is becoming another sort of starting from zero. So what we're envisioning is something like that, but yet it picks up it understands all of your visits, all the things you've eaten, when you like to come. And so there's two things that are happening. It can answer your questions in a really intelligent way because it understands your history, but it's also able to reach out to you
Mm.
proactively. Did you want to come today? There's a room here. There's something this, there's something that. We want to, right? And so it's starting to sort of anticipate and take care of your needs in a way that is service, like it feels concierge and it feels luxury and prestige, but it's really just very, very convenient. So I think it's all about guest experience inside the restaurant. But what would happen if we took that outside the restaurant as a way of just completing the
Mm.
circle? So
Mm.
that's how we envision this developing.
I have one more question, just to add on to that. So partway through, you said the word creepy. And so where's the line between personalization and surveillance, and how do you create recognition without creating discomfort?
That is a nuanced line. And the reason is because I think it's different for different people, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And so so we were talking about this internally the other day about how very, very high end restaurants have research teams. So if Chad was going to go to some Michelin star restaurant,
Yep.
it's more likely than not. And if you've ever read the book Unreasonable Hospitality, right? This is where
Fantastic.
they
Yeah.
they right, fantastic book. They had an entire research team that would basically, oh, Chad's coming. Who's Chad? What's Chad all about? Chad's in New York. What's he doing in New York?
Yeah.
And and then they might, custom build some experience for you based on all that research to surprise and delight you in an extraordinarily personalized way.
Right.
I might submit to you that that's a little creepy. But for some reason you did
But they'll
what?
be
You just
blown
spent the last
away.
right, right. But you just guys just did research on me, my personal life. You scraped through my social. You did this, you did that. All anticipation. Like I just wanted to come here and have dinner, guys.
Right.
Now, but yet in the context of that, like 3-star Michelin restaurant, it's not creepy. It's
Right.
expected.
Right.
Okay. So then if you take that down and you maybe sort of productize that and you have an AI bot that's going out and doing all this research on people and coming up with a whole bunch of information, but you're doing it at mass scale, it just feels like surveillance and that could be considered creepy.
Mhm.
And so some people think the collection of the phone number is creepy. Like, so I don't, why do you need my phone number? I value my privacy. I don't
Yeah,
want
roll in your
that.
boomers, right? It's generational too, how comfortable we are with
Yeah.
our data.
And so I think what we need to do is I think it's a brand by brand thing. I think, using the two extremes, right? The Michelin restaurant, they're going to go to
Mhm.
extreme lengths. Whereas when you're going to something that's more casual, it just doesn't seem appropriate. And so I think what we've got to do is our system tailors to the brand, right? If it's fine dining, we do different things. And then you also have to recognize that some of the information about a guest should be limited to the managers or to certain people. And so, this is where having a lot of experience in enterprise technologies, I think, is useful because we understand the complexity of restaurants and that, certain access to certain things should be limited to people who are equipped to act with that information in a sensitive and contextual way. Whereas, if you give some of this information to, maybe someone who's on the dining room and isn't fully trained with it, and they're saying, "Oh, I see you here were on last Thursday and you had the New York steak." You're just kind of like, "Oh, that's kind of weird. I don't know. Like you keeping track of me?" So I
Mhm.
don't know. We think the best answer is there's not one size fits all, and so the technology has to, at its finest, disappear into the background and what the guest is left with is an incredible feeling of, I just had a wonderful experience. When we nail that, we've done it right.
Beautiful.
So,
Chad?
looking at the clock, Ryan, this will probably be my last question, but here it is. When you said personalized playbook or playbook, personalized to every guest, I'm sure operators listening to that would say, "Well, how? Like, I have this person at the host stand that just started on Friday. Like how do you make a system that knows so much about the guest and curate this experience operational by the staff, right? Who coming in with
Mm.
different levels of experience.
100%. And I think or I think the way that to do it is to understand, how difficult the operating environment is in a restaurant. And so I keep coming back to this idea of a co-pilot supporting the staff to be their best. And so, Chad, like super quickly, the way that Guestology works is, I think, is centered around four key aspects. Thing number one, and we've talked about it, is the guest walks in, they check in with the host. I'm here for my 7 o'clock reservation, or they're a walk up. I'd like a table for two, please. Sure. Can I grab your phone number? That's the key point of recognition. And at that point, our system goes to work. Guest is still standing at the host stand. We're calculating the first thing, which we talked about. What's the value of this guest?
Yep.
Elite, VIP, whatever it is. Second thing we talked about is I've now calculated what your loyalty trend is, right? Where are you in your relationship? Are you building or declining with me? The third thing we do is this playbook we talked about. So now based on a lot of machine learning, the AI says, this is Ryan. This is who he is. This is his relationship with us. What should we do with him? What's our playbook for him on this visit? And again, coming back to these two main objectives that always exist: retain high value guests or get more visitation with a high potential guest. So the AI is now figuring, and this is why we couldn't have done this before, because the ability to calculate and do all of these things in real time while the guest is still standing there is a task, right? And so what our system will do is it'll come up with this playbook. And this is a little bit behind the scenes. The staff are not necessarily aware. If you click in, you can see it, but it's more guiding the fourth thing, which I'll share with you in a second. So that playbook might look like a simple one: surprise and delight. It might be recognized status. One of my favorites is that the playbook might be at risk. Our system is extremely good at recognizing the millions of patterns to be able to say, based on this guest's visitation history and what they're ordering and how much they're spending, and now they're starting to wane, we believe there's an 80% chance this could be their last visit right here today if we don't do something. So these playbooks are really, really important because they guide sort of an intelligent approach to service, but it's kind of behind the scenes. Where it shows up is the fourth thing, which is what we call loyalty actions. And so what we're doing at that point is we're making it extremely easy for the staff to execute, because we're saying our system is determined that these are the things we're going to do for this guest. So a very simple one might be skip the line if it's really, really busy. We might say, for this guest, we want to allow that. That's the right thing to do, or seat them at a premium table. We want to do manager visit. There's a lot of some of our higher end restaurants are so creative, and I need to stress these are all created by the brand to be appropriate for what their brand experience is. One of the ones we've seen recently was a kitchen tour. I like that. So so these are sort of exclusive experiences that you can give to these guests at certain times, right? And our system would be like, not every time, but this time we're going to do this. One of the ones I love is choose your own steak. So for a certain guest, our system, and they said, well, you've ordered a tomahawk or something. They'll invite you into the kitchen and say, we've laid out 4 or 5 tomahawks. Please pick the one that you like the best. Wonderful experience. So this is an idea, getting back to status. What do these things cost? They cost nothing, but our system is saying these experiences, properly applied, will drive tremendous loyalty or will drive increased visitation. And boy, do they ever. And so, Chad, that's really what our system is doing, is it's doing all that hard work, and it's saying, you got a lot of things to do in your restaurant, but if you don't miss these beats, if you do these things, if we surface to you the fact that these are people that on your own you probably wouldn't have recognized as having extreme high potential or being at extreme risk or whatever, between those two poles, the results are just, it's like having superpowers, because now what's happening is you have a visibility into your restaurant and the ability to orchestrate execution in a very, very simple way that drives disproportionate results.
That was a mic drop right there.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it.
I don't, but we can't, because I would miss you guys if you're gone. So,
all right. Well, we're coming up on landing the plane moment, which means we're going to enter our rapid fire round, which should be a fun set of questions for Ryan to answer and get know a little bit about him. All right, you ready, Ryan? And you can say pass on any of these if you like.
Is it normal to feel nervous at this point? Is
Yes.
that normal? Okay.
You should feel very tense right now, very tense.
Okay.
All right, here we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Number 1, what's a restaurant you'll go out of your way to visit every time you're in town?
Any high-end steakhouse.
Any high-end steakhouse. All right.
Yeah.
What's one piece of technology you can't live without, and one piece you'd happily throw in the ocean?
AirPods can't live without. Throw in the ocean. Mm.
Mm,
I
he
don't
just
know.
loves to.
I'm not
Okay,
sure.
I'll take a pass. What's the most expensive lesson you've learned as an entrepreneur?
Not doing enough work when hiring a senior executive. My hint, my trick is I will not hire somebody with a V or a C without being able to go out with them and their partner at dinner.
Ooh,
That
I
is
like that.
it has never failed me,
Yep.
and the one time I violated it, it costed me dearly. So,
Are you picking
yeah,
up on the cues, how they treat the staff, how they treat their spouse? Are you looking for those kind of things?
it's the relationship between them and their spouse that tells you the most.
Mhm.
And all those things too in terms of how they behave. But you can get how they behave when they're just out for dinner, just with you and them. But when you
Yep.
see the dynamic between a person and their spouse, their partner,
Yeah.
spouse, whatever it is,
Yep.
it reveals a tremendous amount. And I think that's really valuable when you're looking for a good culture fit.
Okay. I'm gonna ask this question, but I think I might know the answer. But let's see. If you weren't building restaurant technology, what would you be doing?
I would probably either be operating a restaurant because I do love it very much, or I would be doing a lot of writing. I think at this
Oh,
stage in my career, that would be a lot of fun too. Writing and sharing some of the things that I've learned would be a privilege.
I had him in a rock band. Okay. You can have you can have dinner with any entrepreneur, living or dead. Who gets the invite, and what's the first question you ask them?
It would be Steve Jobs.
Okay.
I am a fanboy. I don't care. Judge me.
That's all right.
And
He
I
built
would
a thing or
actually,
two.
I would ask him to be as critical as he possibly could about my current venture. I think his ability to cut to the essence of the thing
Yeah.
was so rare and so beautiful, and I would just the benefit of that to our customers and our company would be incredible.
Okay. What's one belief you've held strongly for 10 years, strongly 10 years ago that you've completely changed your mind on?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think a book that I read called Who Not How
Mm,
had a profound effect on me, and so what I believed was is I had to know how to do all these things. I had to have in order to be the CEO or of a startup, I had to be good at all these different things. And I think what I realize now is I need to be really good at building teams that are good at those things. And so I rely less on my direct knowledge of certain things and more on the ability to find exceptional people. And I think that sounds obvious, but I think I intellectually believed that a long time ago, but I didn't act that way. I still felt like I had to be, very, very knowledgeable on all these aspects, and I had to make all the decisions myself. And I think I've really let that go now.
okay. And last one. You spent your career helping restaurants get to know their guests better. What's your go-to restaurant order that tells us everything we need to know about Ryan Volberg?
Oh, well, it's a cheeseburger
Oh,
because I think um, I don't know, for that type of restaurant that like your burger says a lot about you.
yeah.
Like there is no reason to have a mediocre burger. And so I feel like I could really I don't know, I feel like I could get a sense of a business by what that burger looks like. Like, does it have a pickle on it? Like, like I just there's so many variations of the burger. It's like unlimited
Yep.
almost, right? The of how you could make a cheeseburger. And so I feel like that's my thing was like I'm just so curious what their burger is going to be like. And then if I'm eating at a nicer place, it's definitely going to be a ribeye or something like that. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. It's a treat. It was great working with you. It's great seeing you as a peer out here in the industry, and I love what you're doing. Your career has been defined by seeing opportunities where others saw and accepted limitations, and you've pioneered cloud-based restaurant technology to earn wage access, and now you're helping restaurants finally recognize and understand their guests at scale through Guestologie. And for the audience listening, to learn more about Ryan and Guestologie, visit guestologie.com. Is that the right website?
That's it. Yeah.
Hey. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning into the ChatGTM podcast. Remember, technology is at its best when it helps businesses create more human experiences, not remove them. So for now, it's ChatGTM podcast signing off, and always random acts of kindness, sprinkle that stuff everywhere. You never know whose day you're going to make better. Just like Ryan Salt bait us here with his kindness too. So thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Thanks,
Ryan.
guys.
We'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.